All right, hey guys, good morning. Lucas here. Looks like the spring is coming, or the summer. Today's a little warmer. That's cool. That's good because the winter is harsh for a lot of reasons, but specifically talking about construction, you lose time, and it's not on just on that day that let's say you have a snowstorm. Let's say there's a snowstorm on a Monday, and then you have to clean up the snow, especially if you work outside with siding, windows, if you are susceptible to those elements. So if it starts snow on a Monday, you have to take the Tuesday off, depending how bad it is, to do the cleanup, right? So you lose there 1.5 days, and that momentum of the week, instead of starting on a Monday, it's gonna start on a Wednesday, half day on a Tuesday. So it's not a very productive week. But we're past that, I think. Let's see on the following weeks how the snow is going to be playing with us. Okay. Yeah. So today I would like to talk about the stairs. More specific, how important it is to have the stairs framed in wood, because they can be framed out of metal, prefabricated stairs, concrete. Let's say it's made out of wood, right? You have to make sure all the details are on plans. If not, you should do an RFI and ask some questions. For instance, I do an RFI with around 15 items, either to be confirmed because they are on plans, but it's good to confirm them just in case they want to change anything for some reason. And others to really ask, because I don't have information on plans. Like the finish that goes on top of the stringers, because you need to know how much is the finish on each step and on the laning and the difference, just so you can do the math correct. Stringers, the side of the stringer itself, how you're gonna cut it, because the engineers are worried about the load, of course, how long the stairs will span. And when you have a stringer out of the LVL or 2x12, when you cut the threads and risers, the engineer is worried how many is left on the bottom, that meat, between how much you cut further inside the piece in relationship to the remaining on the base. Some engineers, they ask for 7 inches, 7.25, 9.25. It really depends on projects, and you have to make sure the size of the LVL that you are getting. You're gonna make enough cut for the risers, threads, and have that meat left for the engineer. Okay. So that's one of the questions. size of the risers and the steps, the thread and risers. It follows code. Usually it's 11 and 7. They have small variances. Check the code. If it's a residential, commercial, they might have different codes, so make sure you are matching them correctly, because we don't want to dismantle the stairs after it's ready, right? Just because we didn't follow the code, because you might have a half an inch difference, but someone might trips on it, and got hurt. You don't want to do that, so they're not gonna approve your stairs. Okay. Very important, the dimensions that they have on plans, is that really frame to frame, or is that really finish to finish? Because there's a difference, right? If the dimensions on plans are finish to finish, and you are considering that as frame to frame, once the finish is installed, you're gonna have less. Let's say it's 5 feet finish, and you put that frame, you're gonna lose 5/8 on one side, 5/8 on the other side because of the drywall, and you're gonna be 1 1/4 inch short this way. That might be a problem, because they have codes for stairs, because it's a mean of egress. In a case of a fire, in case of an emergency, you have to follow strict dimensions, minimal dimensions. Okay. Also, the fire rating of the stairs. So the stairs are wood. Let's say the walls are also wood. Probably, like I said, it's a mean of egress. So the walls are 2 hours. I've checked the plans, but usually they are 2 hours. So they require 2 layers of drywall on each side, outside and inside. Inside will affect the stairs. So make sure you have a gap between the stringers, the last stringer, the first stringer, actually, that is coming by the stairs, to have a minimum gap so the drywaller can install their sheet. Because if you don't leave the space, how is the fire rating going to be installed? Of course, you can all, there's engineers that they ask to screw the stringers into the wall. We're gonna have to ask them about the matching with the fire rating detail. So you're probably gonna have to install a pre-rock, like just a sheet between the stringers and the wall. Put everything together, make a sandwich, and fasten everything together. Now, when you have the stringer in the pre-rock is like 2 inches more up and down. So after the drywaller will just install their sheet, connect everything, and make a nice seam for the fire and finish. Alright. So okay, that's for the stringer. For the landing, it's most of the time you're gonna have to attach all the sides of the landing into the wall. So I have to do the pre-rock. Okay. The stringer is not very common. Just leave a space. By the landings, you have to do the pre-rock, otherwise the landing will be floating, right? So okay, so you have the landing with the pre-rock. Like we talked early about the finish, make sure you ask the surface which type of plywood they want, because some finish guys, their glue does not attach to OSB very well, so they ask for plywood. Okay, so make sure by stepping on it, or where you're gonna have the finish, if it's a carpet, make sure it's plywood, because it's not gonna stick well. You can always talk with your GC about it, so they can talk with the finish guy. If you're all in agreement, you can install an OSB. Ask first. You don't want to go back and cut plywood out with nails and glue. And it takes a while. On every stair, on every floor, you're gonna be there for a while. You don't want to come back to do that. So just ask. There's a cost difference between plywood and OSB, but compared to the floors, the number of sheets, maybe 10 sheets, 20 compared to a 500, you're not saving money, not asking and then using OSB and having the liability to come back later. So you have the landing, in front of the landing, between the landing, the mid landing, and the stringer, you have a beam, front beam, what is called. It might be the same material of the landing, so the landing is like 2x8. It can be a double, triple 2x8 beam, but usually it's a different material. So let's say it's a 2x8 landing at 16. The beams are 2x10 or 2x12 or even LVLs. How are we installing that beam? You have two options. In general, you can put inside the wall, inside a post, but it's more difficult to do the fire rating around because you're penetrating the 2-hour wall. Remember, you have to fireproof that. Sorry about that. Or you can extend because outside the mid landing you have a ledger to make a frame out of the joist. You extend a little bit that ledger into the stringers so you can attach that front beam with the hanger. That's much easier because you just do a pre-rock, extend the ledger, and do a proper hanger for that front beam. That works. It works perfectly well. Right? Okay, so you have the stringers, you have your landing, front beam. That's just the first flight. If there's a mid landing between floors, you have turnaround and then use the stringers up. Same math, same logic about thickness, pre-rock, everything. But just have to make sure your hangers, the connectors are the correct one, because it might be a different one going up and then going down. Just make sure you're using a skewed one. They have options with echoes up and down. If you are using a standard one that doesn't have that skewed, sometimes you're gonna have to bend the connector or make a cut on the stringer. If the engineer sees that, they might not like it. Of course, you have to submit, get an approval. If you're doing just by experience, they might ask you to R5, check all the information. You can also do a layout, like a shop drawing. Show exact dimensions, just you see any interferences, you know, like the transition of the landing to the quarter area, the units. You have to ask. Remember the Jeepcrete? It's a concrete leveling because the wood's not perfect. There's a variance that finds rough framing, so I have to account Jeepcrete to level everything out. The Jeepcrete is not used on the stairs. It's not practical to install Jeepcrete on a staircase. So we have to frame the landing the same thickness of the Jeepcrete, higher. So let's say the Jeepcrete is 1.25 inches. So you frame the stair, the final landing of the stairs 1.25 inches higher because of the comparison to the corridor. Because once you have the Jeepcrete, they're gonna match. They're gonna be aligned. So that's one of the questions you asked you. What else we have for stairs? So yeah, just make sure you're asking every question, every step of the way. If you want to call your foreman supervisor, hey, let's spend 30 minutes just building the stairs in our heads. Make sure we have all the information. So they're gonna ask you a bunch of dimensions. If you don't have it, put it in the R5. Ask the fire rating, the connections, the structural reinforcements. They might ask for sisters on the stringers. I mean, if the stringers are 14-inch LVL, they might ask to put a 5.5 LVL and then with nails, just to help with the twist. And that meat on the bottom becomes double, you know, so just reinforcing the bottom. Okay. Oh yeah, I actually have more stuff. The handrail. Make sure you are asking the height of the blocking for the handrail. Okay. And do not ask the height of the handrail itself. Ask for the height of the blocking for the handrail, because they might be on different heights. If you ask something and then you install they just have to make sure what you're asking. So look over page with the question, put attachments, calling out the details, and then put sketches, just to make sure you ask the correct question to avoid any mistakes. So the handrail, blocking height, and so the stringers going up and then going down and going up. What is going between them? Is there a wall or is there a handrail? You have to ask that as well, because you have to know how much of a gap we need between stringers on different flights. You might have a wall in there, so you need more. Oh, it's just a handrail and it's going on top of the stringer, or it's going on the side of the stringer. Is that handrail going on the side, adding loads like torsion, and you just have to ask everything if there's blocking, extra framing for those. Don't suggest anything, just ask. You're just covering. If they ask something, it's not in the plans, you know the drill. Ask for a change order. Just be fair for both sides. And yeah, what else we have for stairs? I'm going to I'll think about it, but I think it's everything. I'm going to a job site now. lot of mistakes by the other crew. So they asked us to fix it. And I said, sure, we have the guys in there. We can definitely help you out. And also doing some infills. It's an old building, so we're changing some joists, some plywood. Just going there just to check out on the guys. Take some pictures. And if I see something that we didn't talk about, we can definitely explore later. Okay, so safety wise, just make sure you are framing a temporary handrail, OSHA standard, on at least one side of the stairs, so usually on the wall outside, not in the middle, because sometimes they don't have it. So just make sure the handrail is installed correctly. It can be outside of the wall, just a temporary with nails, 2x4s. That's correct heights. You can look up OSHA documentations. And I think that's it for sales, right? Oh, how do we start this? The stringers on the concrete. I mean, you just frame a PT plate, and then you can hang the first stringer out, or just put on top nails, put an angle on it, color it in. And yeah, I think I'll see you guys later. Thank you for another video, and like I said, I'm half an hour away, and I'll make sure to get some photos of the stairs for you guys. Thank you.